Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. When you look around, do you have a sense that you have a responsibility for people other than yourself? Do others depend on you to give careful thought to how your actions will impact their lives? And I think most of us will find ourselves in that position in some way or another. And in essence, that's what leadership is about. It's about having a responsibility for others. And so we can say then that if we are responsible for the lives of others, we have a leadership role to play. Now, not all people who hold leadership positions do this. They don't all take on responsibility for the lives of others, even though they may have a leadership title. And so a mother may be a leader in the home because she is often responsible for the lives of others. A teacher, a priest, they all take responsibility for others because they care. It is not enough for them just to live happy, content lives. They are affected by the welfare of others. They are empathetic, and to some extent they feel the situation of others. They experience feelings that were not originally their own. They can feel the pain of others, not directly, but they have an ability to empathize and so have a sense of what it must be like to be in someone else's shoes. Now, a psychopath is the very opposite of this. They feel nothing. They have no sense of another's pain or emotion or welfare. Some people in leadership positions may lead in this way, feeling nothing for those they lead, regarding them as a commodity or a utility for their own benefit. They see them merely as an extension of their own ego, people to be coerced to fulfill their own agenda. Now, these people are not leaders, but they may hold leadership roles. King Herod the Great is a biblical example of such a leader. He orders the mass killing of infants in Bethlehem, simply to satisfy his own needs, to protect his own authority. And we see that most of his actions were motivated by fear and a desire to protect his power. He was not a leader. By contrast, real leadership involves being open to another's agenda, genuinely responsive to their needs, knowing them, hearing them, listening to them. And many leaders will sacrifice their own needs for the sake of those that they lead. Jesus did that. But here we can meet another collusion. A leader may discover that in attending to the needs of others and in neglecting their own needs, they receive approval and appreciation. And that in some way compensates for their unmet needs. The leader does not meet their own needs directly, but meets them through service to others who reward the leader with approval. And this outcome may be deeply unhealthy. Followers are being exploited by the leader in accordance with the leader's needs, rather than being led in accordance with their needs. And so the leader's motives become mixed. They begin to act in ways that will draw approval to meet their needs for affirmation. Sometimes leaders like this develop an attitude of martyrdom and resignation. They see themselves as pouring out their lives for others while no one else cares in return, reinforcing the idea that they are the sacrificial one, bearing this heavy burden on a lonely road. And the leader will stay on this path because it serves a particular need that the leader has. A biblical example of a leader who needed too much approval was perhaps Herod Antipas. He respects John the Baptist, yet he imprisons him. And at a banquet, he makes a rash promise, and to avoid losing face, he murders John. By contrast, we have Daniel, who is one who respects the authority of the day, but he draws clear lines around what he will and won't do, around prayer, diet, and worship. He remains calm and consistent under pressure. He is trusted, but he is never controlled by the opinions of others or by the system at large. And so today, reflect on your own leadership position, wherever that might be, at home, at church, at work. How much are you affected by your need for approval in your leadership role? Can you draw boundaries around principles where you will not bend? In other words, where do you hold the line of integrity, where you are prepared to give up your popularity for the sake of principle or for the sake of others who need you to hold the line? It's not an easy question, but reflect on that today. Amen.